Hello, this is Reb Yoseph coming to you from the land of Israel. This week is Parshas Bo, and in it we have the death of the firstborn of all of Egypt and the subsequent exodus from Egypt by the children of Israel. Um, it's the beginning of a new world. Um, what has the situation has been that for, shall we say, 430 years, the Jewish people have been um, living the Egyptian lifestyle in one form or another. Now, that number is actually used in the Chumash, and it sparks considerable discussion, basically because if you count from the time that the children of Israel actually came into Israel, one of the people who actually came was Levi, who was the progenitor of the tribe of Levi, and he was also the son of Yaakov. His Moshe is his great grandson, and you can see quickly that 430 years becomes difficult with that. The commentaries will point out that according to their calculation, that Yitzchak was born 400 years before the Exodus, and at that time, Avraham, his father, was 100 years old. So the 430 years counts from the time that Avraham was 70, sometime when he was either in Haran or still in Ur Kasdim. So other commentaries will talk about him being in Eretz Israel. It's difficult because it says that he was 75 when God told him to go to the land that he will show him. It comes out that Avraham, who was reckoned as the first Jew, was under the influence of Egypt, and until the Exodus, all of the Jews were under the influence of Egypt. With the death of the firstborn of Egypt, that ended. You have a situation with Pharaoh, who up until now has been recalcitrant to let the children of Israel leave his domain. He's always been striking a hard bargain. He is playing games to preserve his ego. He has reneged on his word. With the death of the firstborn, he says, everything you want to do, he enumerates it. He says, go and do it. Leave the country. He expels them. While this is happening, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given Israel a mitzvah, basically to observe what amounts is the first Seder, where they're going to have a meal in anticipation of the Exodus. However, they're supposed to have their bags packed and be wearing traveling clothes. The idea is that when the time comes, they are supposed to grab it. They're supposed to just about run. Among the mitzvahs that are giving is that they are supposed to not eat chametz, that's leavened bread, and they are to eat matzah, basically crackers, flat bread. When the time comes with the death of the firstborn, the Egyptians, who had been very difficult, start pressing the children of Israel to leave, and bread or dough that had been set aside to rise. The idea of making bread is that you mix flour and water into a dough, and then you set it aside for some time and it rises, and then you bake it into bread. A little bit of a time consuming and process, one that requires a little bit of patience. When you make crackers or cookies, you don't wait for it to rise. You just make a dough and you put it in the oven, you bake it, and it comes out flat and often crisp. That is the idea of chametz versus matzah, that if you're going to leave a situation that you've been in for 430 years, at times you must do it immediately. Later on, when the Bnei Yisrael come to the Yam Suf, the Red Sea, Pharaoh chases after him, and they become very alarmed. And Moshe says, take a look at them, because the way you see them now, you will never see them like this again. The commentaries discuss that, meaning that don't even think about becoming slaves in Egypt again. Egypt is, the situation regarding Egypt has irrevocably changed. And that basically it's not going to return to that. It'll be a neighboring country, sometimes a good neighbor, sometimes a difficult neighbor. But the idea of the Jews being citizens, even second-rate citizens, workers in Egypt, that the Egyptians are the master and the Jews are the workers, is not coming back. The Ibn Ezra actually talks about that. He says, why should a camp of 600,000 be so alarmed at this? You'd think that they would make war to save their lives. And he answers this rhetorical question by saying, because they were raised from their youth to be slaves, and their souls were downtrodden, that they were inclined to just listen to Egypt and to be fearful of them. And it wasn't until a new generation came up with that was higher spirited, that they could conquer the Holy Land. The idea was expressed by Shlomo Karlbach, who said that when the time arrives, this is, he said, being a Jew, you have to know how to change gears. For 400 years you were a slave, now you're a free man. For 400 years you were subservient to this country. The country no longer is nearly that powerful. You're going to deal with them on a completely different basis. And you have to know how to accommodate to a new situation, at times very rapidly, and that when the moment comes that you are, at times, you just simply must grab it, and indeed you may even be pushed in that direction. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.